But first up, we're joined by Sally Lindsay and Paul Davis, who's the Retail Fraud Director at Lloyds Bank. We're talking about new research that shows that loneliness and lack of contact with people is causing us to let down our guard regarding scam calls. Here's what happened when I spoke to Paul and Sally earlier on. So Sally, last time I was with you, we were in Dublin at the City West Hotel. Keith Duffy was having one of his massive charity events.
I remember, yeah, I do. And I've just been in Dublin. Literally came back last week because I was filming there, and I spoke to Keith, but we couldn't see each other. So we're still in touch. But we couldn't see each other because their lockdown's even harsher than ours. And we were filming there, and it was bizarre. Dublin was shut. It was like the last experience to this one was like couldn't have been any more polemic. It was mental.
Okay, enough reminiscing for now. We've got to talk about scam calls. We're going to bring in Paul Davis, who is the Retail Fraud Director at Lloyds Bank. Paul, thank you for joining us. Tell us about this new research then.
Well, yeah, thanks for having us on today. So Lloyds Bank has commissioned research to look at the experience of the UK and fraud, particularly during the pandemic. And the results, based on a survey of over 2,000 UK adults, showed that we think about 3.6 million have been scammed in some way since the start of the pandemic. And so clearly showing that anybody can and does fall victim to these scams. And definitely something that we all need to be aware of. And that's why we're talking about it today.
So the scary thing is, it's actually happening to younger people now, isn't it?
These scams can happen to anybody. I mean, there's ideas that it won't happen to us, I think. And there's also, I think, an idea that maybe it's only an issue that affects the elderly. But actually, that's not what we see at all in the data at Lloyds Bank. We see the average age of the victim is usually somebody in their 30s. And the research that we did showed that it was those aged 18 to 24 who actually, of everybody, were most likely to let their guard down, and said they were most likely to admit that they'd forgotten how to spot a fraudulent caller. So perhaps a bit of misplaced confidence as well in those younger age groups.
Tell us about the top things that people are falling for.
Yes, there's all kinds of different scams out there. One of the most common we see our customers falling victim to are purchase scams, where they've seen something for sale online, often in an online marketplace through a social media site. Things like pets or designer trainers, hot tubs, even cars and motorhomes. But the goods don't exist and they never turn up. And the criminal, what they do is they try and get you to pay by bank transfer directly, not card. Top tip for anyone shopping online is to always pay by card, because that's the safest way to pay. But the fraudsters know that, so they try and trick us into sending money directly. But then we also see some scam types where absolutely life-changing sums of money can be lost. These could be like impersonation scams, where someone rings you up through a cold call and pretends to be from your bank or from the tax office, and that scam then proceeds with them eventually asking you to send money. And we even see some like romance scams, where the scammer builds up a fake romantic relationship with the victim over several months and years. And they can be really evil, life-changing scams where you don't just lose money, but you actually kind of lose confidence and can really have a devastating impact on your life. So they can happen to anybody. There's all different types of scams out there, and hence the importance of everyone knowing the things to do to not fall victim.
Now, we had one recently when our landline phone was ringing every 15 minutes. And when you answered it, it was a pre-recorded message from what was supposedly our internet provider telling us that there had been some illegal activity on our account. And to phone this phone number. Of course, we didn't phone the number, but they kept sending the message through every 15 minutes. So eventually we phoned our internet provider and, of course, found out that this was just another classic scam. But if people are getting those kind of phone calls all the time, every 15 minutes, there's a good chance they probably are going to phone the scam phone number, aren't they?
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And in fact, when I was doing a different interview today, my phone rang and it was a scam call. I mean, these fraudsters are prolific. They do this for a living, and they'll stop at nothing to try and get us to part with our cash. And actually, the steps you took with that scam call, absolutely fantastic. And that's what I'd recommend anyone does if they get a cold call out of the blue. Don't trust the call. And if you do want to speak to that organization, hang up and then call them back on a number that you know is genuine.
Okay, let's bring in Sally now. And Sally, we loved you in Channel 5's Cold Call, which of course was a story of a woman who got conned out of thousands of pounds. And just before you started filming Cold Call, this nearly happened to you as well, didn't it?
It was so bizarre. What had happened, I'd come back from the interview for Cold Call and was really fascinated about it and thought, I wonder why nobody's done this before. It's happening all the time. And then the next day I got a call from the supposed gas board, and they threatened to cut my gas off if I didn't pay the bill by the end of the day, even though I knew it was paid because it came out of my husband's account. So I knew that myself, but because I was so panicky about the fact that we wouldn't have gas at the end of the day, and I couldn't be able to cook, I wouldn't be able to shower the boys, and I was just like, hang on a minute. And I even got panicky about that, and I said, well, why not? And I remember chatting to this woman, and she was so lovely and so nice. Don't worry, we can sort it out. You just need to pay it today. And it was something like £500, £600. And it was my stepson who came in and said, put the phone down. It's happened to mum. So they must have been going around to the numbers in the area,
yes,
and check and just doing that part. And it was because I was distracted and I was rushing out to get the kids from school and I was worried about it. And that's how they get you see. It's about creating a panic, and it's creating an urgency that you've got to sort this out now. You've got to sort this out today. And if you don't, then you're going to lose money. You're not going to be able to use your bank card for 6 weeks. You're not going to be able to have gas or electric in your house. All this stuff that's like essential life stuff. Like your internet's going to be turned off. How can you function without your interview doing your job?
Exactly, yeah.
It's impossible. And that's where they get you at the thing that you really care for. Your money you've saved up all your life, it's been threatened, and then they give you the answer as well. So they say, don't worry, we can sort it out, but it's got to be done today. And because you've got a level of trust with these people, because they sound so nice and innocent and really helpful and really lovely, it's so easy to fall down that rabbit hole and to be scammed. And I think what Paul and I are trying to say today is no internet provider, no reputable company, no bank, Lloyds or any bank will ever make you rush a decision. They will never say you need to do it today. It won't happen.
Yeah.
So once you've got that information in your head, that red flag in your head, you sort of know that it's a scam, don't you?
Yeah.
And once you've got that confidence, you're not scared of your phone anymore. And if it's happened to you before, you know that it's a scam.
Yeah.
Because no one will ever make you do that.
Now, during your research for Cold Call, you must have come across some really horrendous stories.
Oh, just like, it was always about... what really upset me more than anything is how brilliant they are about it, and the research we did I think it was in the second episode, we actually filmed the scammers at work and being trained and what they're told to do. So essentially, the nicer the person you are, the more you're likely to get scammed. Yes. And if you're like a people pleaser and you're a nice person, you'll be trying to help the scammer, because you think they're helping you. I mean, it's all psychological stuff. They pick on your heart, like Paul said before about romance. It's anything that makes you a nice person. They pick on, and that's when they get you. And it's just the most awful of crimes. And it's some families that we did the research. They've been torn apart by because inheritance has been scammed, and therefore the children have been left destitute. It's just absolutely awful. Even when I was doing the press for Cold Call, there was an interview. I did an interview with the journalist, and she was a really high up, fantastic, clever journalist. And I thought she was paying me a bit too much attention. But the year before, she'd been scammed out. I think it was over £40,000 on the day of 4 days before Christmas, on her father-in-law's funeral. Yeah. And she was distracted, and she had to get out of the house, obviously, but they said, no, you're going to lose all this money, so you need to transfer it. So she just did it. And she said, it was really hard watching you do that, because that's exactly what happened to me. And I felt so stupid. She didn't tell anyone. She felt there's a lot of shame in this as well, because you were the one who instigated it, and you think, oh, why was I... So it's about shame as well, and you shouldn't feel shame at all, because no bank or no internet provider will ever cold call you. It won't happen. So once you know that, then you can protect yourself.
Okay, we'll come back to Paul. To finish off with you, Paul, tell us, are there any websites people can go to with any tips to prevent these scam calls from happening?
So when it comes to scams, great place to visit is the Lloyds Bank websites. Anyone can go there, not just our customers. And there's a huge amount of resources in our fraud hub with top tips on the latest types of scams and also how to protect yourself from falling victims. So the Lloyds Bank website's a great place for anyone to go.
Now, while we have you on, I've got to talk to you about Coronation Street. Of course, it's coming up on the 60th anniversary, and it must be good for you to know that you played a part in that iconic TV series.
Of course I am. I mean, it's a lifetime ago now. It's about 15 years ago I left.
Yeah.
And I still know some people in it. I always go, when I'm up in Manchester, I go and have a look and see the makeup girls and everyone and say hello. And I feel very proud that I was part of it. I was very proud that I was that I was the manager, the landlady, the Rovers. It's an iconic part, isn't it? And it was a wonderful 5 years of my life. I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago now. And but it is. But I've always had a fantastic relationship with Coronation Street, and it was my decision. It wasn't them.
Yeah.
It was me wanting to leave.
And of course, Peter Barlow, he didn't treat you very well, did he?
Oh, Chris Gascoigne. Yeah, Liz. No, I know Chris very well. He's gorgeous. We're still in touch. No, he didn't. He didn't very well. That was the Bigamy storyline, wasn't it? Yes. Sorry. Let's go back into Corrie mode. Yes. It was. It was a very interesting storyline. That it was like, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make it believable? And it really was. I mean, remember back then getting letters, and we got letters then, not emails or texts, or, we got letters. I got letters from thousands of women around the country that they'd, been part of a double life. They'd been the other half of a double life. It was bizarre, really. But it was. Yeah, I always have fond memories, and I've still got best friends that I met in that show. So it was a beautiful time in my life.
Now, we're all devastated recently to hear the sad news about Bobby Ball. You must have been especially devastated because you had the pleasure of knowing Bobby quite well, didn't you? Yeah.
I still can't believe he's gone.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's not in this world anymore. And he was the most wonderful, wonderful man. I can't express how special he was, and how funny and how intelligent. And how he was magical. He was like a little ball of magic, and you just wanted to be in his orbit all the time. Every time he was around, you wanted to be near him because he was just beautiful, and he was a God-given gift to this world. And I'm just so I'm so glad that he went quickly, because Bobby would not want to be hanging around if he couldn't live life to the full. Let me tell you that. And I'm just so honoured that I had 7 years. I mean, I was still friends, even though Mount Pleasant was cancelled 3 years ago. We were still dear friends, and I still went to visit him and Vonnie in Lim, and did his charity stuff. And we were FaceTime during the pandemic when he was singing on his balcony and banging his pan, and so we always had that connection. We were very, very, very close. Bob and Dan, Dan Ryan, who played, he considered us like his other kids, really. And we were very, very, very close to him. And but I'm so glad that I feel so honoured that I got to be in his life for those years. So honoured, and I can't express that enough. That I'm horrified that he's not. I can't ring him and he's not there anymore. But you've got to appreciate that I got to be that close to that magic.
And finally, Sally, are we going to see you back on TV anytime soon?
Yeah, I've got a few things coming up. So 3 things. I've just filmed over in Ireland, as I told you about, a 4-part drama for Channel 5 called Intruder.
Wow.
Where I play my first copper, which is interesting. I've never done copper before. 25 years, first copper. So I'm very excited about that. I don't know whether it'll work, but it's good. I've got dark hair, interesting. So also, my company, Saffron Cherry, have just made this wonderful kids programme called The World According to Grandpa. And I play a little rabbit in that, Halifax. So we're very excited about that because it's a brilliant kids programme with Don Warrington. And also I've got a documentary that comes out at the start of next year where I get to nosy around posh homes. So I get to do an overnight. Yeah. So amazingly, I got to film 3 amazing things. So I'm very, very, very lucky. So that's all coming to your screens very soon. So I've been very lucky.
Well, we look forward to that. Sally, it's been great talking to you as always. Thank you for joining us on the show. And Paul as well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Lovely to see you again.